Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the architecture of Deus Ex Mankind Divided. In this video we are in the GARM facility. GARM, which is an acronym for Geological Alpine Research Mega Complex. We are somewhere in the Swiss Alps, right? According to the story, this is a research facility doing some kind of scientific research on a glacier up in the Swiss Alps, but it's no longer being used for research. It is currently the secret base of a paramilitary organization. So it's a scientific base. It might not have been a scientific base, but it was supposed to be a scientific base that was doing something else, probably, but then it has subsequently been converted into a paramilitary base. Okay. So we are out the back, actually. In the game, what happens is Adam Jensen gets ambushed, and then he gets dumped out in the back of the facility, left for dead. So out back here we have like snow, we have rubbish. This is like the rubbish dump. But Adam Jensen doesn't die, and he has to make his way through the facility back out the other side. That's the game, right? So here we are. In the back we have, that's the facility. It's very concrete, very industrial. Look at that. Trusses and pipes and concrete and things. On the other side we have big ass pipes. It doesn't look like a research facility, does it? It looks more like an industrial facility, right? It looks more like a big chemical plant or something. Doesn't that look like it? So we're not sure whether GARM really was a scientific research facility. It's a little too industrial, it seems like. Curious. Also, I'm not sure if this space is all that plausible, because we have mountain on one side, pipes on the other, and then the concrete building. How do you maintain this machinery? Like, if you need to repair this, how do you get like the machines in here to repair this? You can't. So it's a little tight, but it's video games. So let's not worry too much about that. Let's go up the ladder. Oh, look at this. Is this concrete or is this sheet metal? Looks like it's actually sheet metal. Is that a welded sheet metal, really? Or is that cast concrete or sheet metal? I actually am not sure. Is it metal or concrete? I don't know, you guys. I can't. I don't really. It's metal, right? It looks like metal. So that's ventilation. There's a ventilation shaft back there. Not too important. Up the ladder. Into the back door. So we have this like flat metal stuff. I mean, I'm assuming it's metal. Flat metal stuff, and then this corrugated metal stuff. And I'm not sure why some of it is flat and some of it is not. Not sure it makes any architectural sense. So like, you know, when you look at a building, it should make sense. Like, you should be able to see like why it's doing that. But here it doesn't seem to have any. There seems to be no reason for why some parts are different from others. Alright, in the back door we have a very industrial facility. We have like a code and lockers. So this is like a sort of an airlock. We are up in the Swiss Alps. It's very cold. We might get blizzards up here sometimes. So when you're in a really cold environment, having an airlock makes sense, because you don't want to let the blizzard in. If there is a blizzard, you don't want to let it in. So you would like open one door, get into this space, close that door, and then you open the door inside, so the wind doesn't just kind of blow straight in. You don't want freezing wind blowing straight into your building. So we do have it's kind of an airlock, and you have like the big coats here, so you can get dressed and undressed, and not bring the snow into the building. Also a bit of a storage space. Not sure what this is. I mean, it could be equipment. It could be equipment that you could use outside. And then we are in the building proper. Oh, look at the steel. What is this? First of all, this room. This room appears to be a server room. Server? What are these? These are not computers, are they? Are they computers? They are computers. They might be computers. But more interestingly, through the window, we get a view of the interior of the GARM facility. Oh, look at that. So we have a big-ass rectangle. Big-ass rectangular shed. Interesting. So the, in the game, the purpose of this is to let you see the space before you go in. Because this space in the game, when you're playing through it, it's filled with enemies. There's enemies walking around and doing things. And so what the game lets you do is, it lets you see the trouble you're going into before you go into it. You actually have to go through and go through to the other side of the building. And you basically have to make it past all the enemies. So you can like look at all the enemies and try to plan ahead a little bit. So that's nice for gameplay reasons. For our purposes, we can also get to see this building. So what is it? What is it? It's steel. You can see the steel frame. Steel trusses on the roof. That bit is glass for the light. The wall appears to be sheet metal. That might be concrete. Not sure. Did we decide whether this is concrete or sheet metal? We decided this was sheet metal, right? I'm not sure what that is. It's not very clear. It could be concrete. I don't actually know. So it's probably sheet metal. And the roof appears also to be just metal sheets. So it's a big metal shed with some glass and steel frame. The roof, you'll notice, the roof truss structure is quite substantial. There's like a lot of structure up there. And in a place like the Swiss Alps where it might snow, you want a strong roof because the snow is going to accumulate on the roof, and snow is actually quite heavy, especially when it piles up. So in order to hold up all the heavy snow, you need a strong roof structure. Like in cold areas, in the far north, in places like that, like the roof structures of the buildings are very strong because it snows. Wherever it snows, you need sturdy roofs to hold the snow up. And then inside we have, what is that? A big crane holding that thing. That's a drill, and it's not too clear right now, but there behind that, that's glass. Behind the glass there's the glacier. So this is just ice, the ice of the glacier. And they have a drill drilling ice cores out of the glacier is what's going on there. So those are ice cores just sitting there, waiting to be processed, I guess. And then down there, underneath there, that's also ice. So the whole building is sitting in the ice. There's ice on one side of the wall and then ice under the floor as well. There's these little rooms inside the bigger space. So there's like 1 room, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of these little room things. We'll look at those more closely. And then on this end, there's like a server room here. So there's some spaces here and presumably some spaces there on the other end as well. So it's a big shed, some kind of office slash whatever rooms on either side, big open space in the middle, and supposedly science things going on inside, drilling into ice cores. So that's the GARM facility. There's not much artistic merit to the architecture. It's just a big rectangular steel box. So there's no poetry, but it is very pragmatic, very functional, right? A lot of industrial buildings actually are just big steel sheds. A lot of factories are just big steel boxes. Hangars, a big steel box. Like even like the Tesla Gigafactory or the Gigafactory, it's so cool. It's actually just a big ass box with a factory inside. So big industrial sheds, not unexpected at all. And they make a lot of sense, because you just need a big enclosed space for your machinery, right? Architecturally, there's not much to them though. It's just a big box. Okay, let's go take a look around, and we'll walk around the whole building. So as we said, up here we have a bit of a server room, assuming these are computers. And then on the end here, this, it's not obvious just by looking at it, but what this actually is the control room for the drill. So this here, it lets you control the drill. That's a drill there, and they're drilling into the ice. And you can use this to do things in the game. Right, so this is the angle. So those, you can get a closer look at the ice cores, the big ass ice cores. There's a lot of ice there. And there's a drill, it goes both directions. And we're drilling that way. Okay? Okay. Cool. GARM. So, out into the main space. Down the staircase, you'll notice the staircase looks like it can be dismantled and removed, but everything's just kind of bolted together. It looks like you can unbolt everything and just pack it up and move it away. And in fact, it's... is this welded or is it bolted? We don't see a lot of bolts. Maybe this is welded. I think the main steel beams, or steel columns, are welded. That looks like it's welded. But then some of the other stuff is bolted. So maybe some of this you can dismantle and take away, like that. Let's get unbolt that. So maybe most of this you can unbolt and move away and just reuse somewhere else. But the main columns, the foundations, you can't move because they're built in. Is kind of what it looks like here. Actually, can I like get a closer look up there? This might not be accurate. There's no visible bolts. Well, I mean, there's some there, but that could just be like an oversight in the game design, like in the artwork, right? So there's some bolts there, and then some of that's not. I'm not really sure whether you can remove this. Can you remove that? Maybe, maybe not. Glaciers in real life, glaciers actually move. A glacier is a river of ice. Now, they look like they're not moving because they're moving really slowly, but the ice actually slides down very slowly. So, building on a glacier is not actually stable, like the whole thing would just move downhill over time. So a temporary structure, if you're actually in the glacier, a temporary structure kind of makes sense because you don't expect this to last forever. I'm not sure this game considered that though, because when we get outside near the end, it doesn't look like the whole thing can be moved. From this side, it looks like it can be dismantled. And let me just look at this again. Is this metal? This looks like metal. Alright, I'm going to go with sheet metal, not concrete. Like that there. So you have, I guess, the orange bits. The orange bits are like the foundations, and then the white bit is the column, right? Can you like see that? So when you see that, what's usually happening is the orange bit would be cast into a concrete foundation, and then the white bit will be the column bolted on top of that bit. Because you can bolt steel bits together. You can't really bolt steel into concrete. You can, but the bolt's not very strong. You have to cast into the concrete, and then you bolt the steel together. If you want to have like a concrete foundation and then a steel column, that's what you do. You bolt one part and you cast one part and then bolt the other part. Whether or not that's happening in the game, we're not sure. Is it a bolt? That's a bolt! We found the bolts, you guys! Alright, so these are bolted. Oh, there you go. Okay, so these are bolted into... Yeah, okay, good. You know what? Good. Except that I don't know if there's concrete underneath. I think it's just ice underneath. So, I'm not sure what's happening in the foundations. Anyway, if you see that in real life, and it is a concrete foundation, then you know what it is. Cast one bit of steel into the concrete, and then bolt the other bit of steel into the first bit of steel. Right. So down here, the floor is also metal sheets, but the floor is raised up, as you'll see later. Down here we have a bit of storage on one side, So on this side, look at this. We have a vehicle on tracks, it looks like. Look at that. From above it looks like a little room, but actually it's a car. Well, it's a mobile lab, I believe. But if you move along this way, you see there's tracks there, right? And then here, you see the track is being dismantled, right? You see how the track has been laid out there. And then moving this way, these ones don't have tracks, look at that. So what it looks like is the tracks is actually a separate piece from the building. And the tracks, they carry the building in, and then you can remove the tracks and then set the building down. So that, look how high up that is, and then look how high up this is, right? It looks like this is slightly lower, is it? Am I crazy, or is that... No, that is. So this is slightly lower, right? So you kind of roll them in, remove the wheels, and then lower the thing onto proper foundations. So we have proper foundations here. So it's not permanently built in. They kind of wheel one piece in, remove the wheels, and then use the wheels to kind of move another one in, and then lower them down. Isn't that fun? Cool, right? So these are like mobile laboratories that you can move around on the tracks. Ah, that's pretty fun. Unfortunately, if you look around, there's no doors in this shed. There's no doors big enough to move these buildings inside, so I don't know how they got them in here. But once you got them in here, you can move them in place and set them down. They forgot the door, you guys. There's no door, right? Is there a door here? No. No, that's just a solid wall. You know, there's no door. In theory, you can like drive them into the shed, set them down. In theory, this shed doesn't have big enough doors to do that, but otherwise it's fine. Inside these things, so these are like rooms. Oh, by the way, we are in the glacier, so this is ice. Presumably because the ice cores are just sitting there and they're not melting. It's just sitting there. So I guess we are sub-zero, right? We are below freezing inside this space. So this is a cold space. And I think this provides an insulated and heated space for people to work in. And not be cold, right? So here we have... I guess this has been converted into a mess room. They're eating cereal and muffins. This is not a healthy diet. There's beer, cereal, and that's pretty much it. Don't eat like this, you guys. This is not good for your health. Oh, I like spoons. All right, spoons and forks. Right, so we have a mess hall in one of these rooms, and it'll be insulated, so like your cereal's not frozen. you pour the milk freezes, and you can't eat it anymore. So you kind of need to have rooms like this when you're working out in the Swiss Alps, alright? Alright, so a mess room in one space. In this space, what do you have? Cards? Looks like they've turned this into a bit of a recreation room. So a break room. Alright, good. And then, getting out here. So then, what is this? What is this car? This car is some sort of office, I guess. There's computers, there's paperwork. Not too sure. And given the wheels are still in the process of being detached, it's possible that they haven't quite moved in yet, and they aren't using the space. And the next one, the wheels are definitely still on. Or the tracks, I guess. And inside here is... I don't know what that is. Storage. Junk. I don't know what this is. But yeah, I guess once they get the wheels off, they would move more equipment in and they'll use the space properly, right? And then on top of these vehicles... Are those solar panels? they look kind of like solar panels, but solar panels that size, they wouldn't power very much. They'll power something, but not very much. Alright. I'm just thinking, if they're supposed to be solar panels, wouldn't they need like just more of them? Just like a bigger area? Are they solar panels or not? They might not be solar panels. I think they're solar panels. Could be a radar. I don't think it's a radar, I think it's a solar panel. Alright, so that's these things. We have some mobile rooms that can be moved around. And then in here, if we look closely, you see that this is ice. So we are sitting on the glacier. And they're doing something to the glacier. I don't know what they're doing. This, I guess they're drilling in. Or they're like storing something or extracting something. They're doing something into the ice in the glacier, not sure. And in between the shed floor and the ice, we have like these spaces underneath. Ventilation, I guess. So there's I guess all the cable, the ventilations and stuff is underneath the floor, between the ice and the floor. Which, given that the floor is raised up off the ice, I'm not entirely sure how they get these in. Because these are heavy, right? These are big heavy rooms on tracks. But this floor is not solid. So like this would break the floor. If the floor was just thin and not designed to support this much weight, which it probably isn't, then it would just break the floor. So to get this to work, there would have to be like solid tracks or parts of the floor where it's solid enough that these things don't collapse the floor, right? So you might have like a steel beam underneath where the tracks go, and the track can only walk along those lines, otherwise it'll break the floor. So maybe if they were like, you know, bits of steel, like steel beams right underneath where the tracks are, this could work. But then you would only be able to drive the rooms along those tracks, right? I don't know if I'm overthinking it. I don't know if the game designers really thought this through when they put this in. They didn't think this through, because there's no door. they didn't think this through because you can't drive this thing in here, because the shed doesn't have a big enough door to drive them in, so no, they didn't think this through. I am thinking more about this more thoroughly than the game designers did. And again, we have ice cores, and again they're sitting on these tracks. And so if the floor is not solid, it's raised up, then this thing will break the floor. So I don't really know how this would work, because it's not concrete, right? By the way, there's stuff underneath the floor. Look at this. There are retractable platforms underneath the floor. So it's not solid down there. It's definitely not solid down there. I don't know, maybe it's more sturdy than I imagined. Maybe it is super heavy duty steel down there. It's possible. Okay, so here we have glass. And then behind the glass we have the ice of the glacier. Can you see that? It's kind of difficult to see clearly. Like the glass is a little bit foggy. We can kind of see the ice behind the glass, right? Very cool. Except they're drilling into the ice, and there's glass. So what they pretend to be doing is they have these portals built into the glass wall, and they're drilling into the portals. So they're not drilling through the glass, you guys. That's silly. But even if they're not drilling through the glass, you shouldn't have glass here, because if there's any accident, you're gonna break all the glass, right? If you drop something, if you move the drill to the wrong place, like if anything goes wrong at all, you're gonna have a lot of shattered glass on the ground, and that's not cool. So like in a real industrial facility, you're not gonna have beautiful glass walls right next to your dangerous machines, because you're gonna break them. So this is a little bit silly, but they put it in the game because they want to let you see the ice behind, right? They want you to understand that we are in the glacier, and to show that, they have to make the wall glass, because otherwise you can't see it. So I get it, I understand why they did it. It's not plausible, is what I'm saying. There's no way you would do this in real life. Alright, can we get a closer look at the drill? Okay. I think it's like a heat drill, it's not just like a drill. I think they like melt through the ice. Not 100% sure. Okay, and then back here at the very other end, there's a bit of a machinery thing here. There's a pipe. I don't know what they're piping, but the pipe goes through to the other side. A bit of a storage space, and then there's like an office up in the other corner. Not that it's interesting or anything. So more storage back here. And then up the staircase. And then there's something office. There's this fabric. Not sure why the fabric is there, and not sure whose office this is. Actually, there's a picture there. What's going on there? Yeah, no, I don't know whose office this is, but there's an office. Okay, back out. So this is shed number 1. There is another shed. Access or hangar 2. So the game calls these hangars? A hangar, properly speaking, a hangar is a storage for aircraft or spacecraft. So it's a big shed that stores aircraft. Now this is a big shed, but it's not storing aircraft. So technically we don't call them hangars. We call them sheds, like an industrial shed. Or it might be called like a factory hall. Like a factory would have a hall. The hangar's not exactly right, but forgive them. Through another space, the light's a little odd. I don't know why those are diagonal like that. Like, they're cool and artistic, I suppose, but everything else is so pragmatic and industrial that the decorative lighting is a little odd. And is this still metal? Is this concrete or metal? I can't... Like this, what is it? Is it concrete or metal? I don't know. Anyway, through here, we appear to have a tunnel through the glacier. Right? So this is a little bit interesting. It looks like they melted a tunnel through the glacier, right? If they drilled, then the tunnel would be perfectly circular. And remember that we have sub-zero temperatures, the tunnels are not constantly melting. This looked like they took like a flamethrower or a giant heat fan and just melted through the ice, is what this looks like. Because the walls are not regular. It seems to be what it implies. There's a tube through there, I don't know what's supposed to be in the tube. Oh, there's this bolted into the ice. There's like a little cart system, a little tram system, where you put the cargo here and you just roll it along. You don't have to carry the load all the way. Interesting. Ice is actually quite good as a building material, except for the fact that it melts. Right, so if you're in freezing temperatures, ice is structurally very good for building. Surprisingly good for building. The only issue is that it needs to be cold. And so, like, you know, like mounting a rail into ice is perfectly fine as long as it doesn't melt. So We have this cargo system. These things go along these tracks. There's a bit of a workspace here. Pipe. We can look in the pipe, but it's not clear what's going on in the pipe. And then we're out to hangar number 2, or shed number 2. Ah, there we go. Shed number 2, architecturally, identical to shed number 1, except I guess there's no skylight. So in the other one there was a skylight on one side. This side there's no skylight. But aside from that, everything's the same. We have the metal frame, sheet metal roof and walls. The stuff inside the shed is different. What do we have? First up, we have climbing walls. We have an exercise area. Remember that this is supposedly a secret base for a paramilitary organization. So before we had mess hall, break room, and now we have exercise area. Over here we have a shooting range. So they're practicing their guns. And appropriately, the shooting range is inside its own room because 1, noise, and 2, safety. Right, you don't want to... If you misfire, you don't want it to shoot out into the distance. You want a wall to stop the bullets from hitting anyone else. In here we have guns, right? Appropriate. The armory is next to the shooting range. Coming out here... Oh, super bright. This is a bit of a med bay, a clinic. Although it seems like it's mostly cybernetics work. You see like the cybernetic limbs. There's not a lot of biological medical equipment. It's mostly cybernetic equipment. Right? And only 1 bed. Oh, there is a blood pack there. Only 1 bed? I guess they don't need repairs that often? Maybe? Over here we have more exercise equipment. Punching bags, weights. Right, more equipment. Back there we have those panels. I don't know what those panels are about. There's triangular panels arranged in a vaguely artistic way, and I'm not sure why. You can jump up there, I think. Let me just try jumping up there. Oh, can't get there like that. Can I... Oh, wrong way. Can I... grab that? Oh no? What happened? Okay, I'm pretty sure you can get up this. Excuse me. Okay, there you go. So you can climb up here, but I don't know what this space is for, or why there are triangular panels like this. Doesn't seem to make any sense. And more importantly, it doesn't really fit the aesthetic of the rest of this. Like again, everything else is very rectangular, very functional, very pragmatic, very industrial, and then this stuff is just not, so I'm not sure what this is about. There is a sniper rifle up here, so maybe it's for gameplay reasons you come up here and just start shooting the enemies? Possibly for gameplay reasons. Alright, back down. So on this side of the shed, again we have these rooms. The wheels have been removed. The first one is dormitory. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 8. Realistically, you would fit more beds in here, but for gameplay, they can't do that because if the space is too small, the AI would glitch out. In the game, there are like, you see the gun there? There are enemies, and if there's not enough room for the AI to move around, they'll mess up. So that's why there's not actually that much stuff in here. But like a military facility would, one, require more beds, and two, would use the space more efficiently than this. We have military vehicles. Hey, look at this. We have a door, you guys. Hey, look at that. Oh, can I? Oh, no, this is not this is an alarm panel. So in shed number 2, there actually is a door. And it's wide enough, or it's tall enough and wide enough for these military trucks to get in here. It's not wide enough for the room, the mobile rooms to get in here, right? No. So it's this wide? And this thing is that wide. No, that doesn't fit. So we still don't know how these things get in here. But we know how the trucks get in here. Nice. And then another dormitory unit, another 8 beds. Well, there would be 8 if there was one there. So at most, 16 beds. And there's definitely more than 16 enemies on this level. So they didn't actually have enough beds for all the enemies they have here. Right, more military trucks. These things have been covered over. I assume underneath is the same thing as the ice. And that's like a drill up there. Okay, and then finally in this corner of shed number 2, we have like a smaller shed inside the bigger shed. And inside the smaller shed we have these things. Oh, it's a robot tank. It's a giant military, armored military robot. Cool. Well, you don't get to see these things in the game. Do you? Let me just think. No, I don't think you ever actually fight one of these things in the game. Look at the size. Is that is those ammo? Are those autocannons? Big ass machine guns? Very cool. So this is a maintenance bay for these robots. I think all these cubes are also these robots. If I remember right, from the first Deus Ex games, these things would fold up into the cubes, and they would like unfold and activate. So I think these are all robots. The problem is there's no obvious way to get these robots in and out of this space. They definitely can't walk out because that thing is bigger than the door, right? They can't fit through the door. Can you fit one of these through the door? I guess you can barely fit one of those through the door at a time. What I'm trying to say is, okay, I mean there's forklift there. The forklift itself is too tall to fit through the door. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure they really thought this through. And I'm not just nitpicking, right? Because here's the thing. If you have a big ass door, then in your mind you think, oh, something big goes through here. And that's cool, right? If you have a small door, in your mind you think, oh, something small goes through here. And that's less cool. So sometimes when you like have a building and there's a big door, like even if you're not aware of it, like unconsciously you look at that and you feel like, oh, something big is coming. Because like, what the hell goes through a door that big? Right? Like you would like it kind of crosses your mind. It's like, oh, something big's in here. If you see a big door. So, you know, the idea that you have these cool military robots. Imagine if the door was just like big, just a big door. You look at it and you're like, oh, what's going on there? Something big, like especially like all the other doors are small, and you get to one that's like a big. It's like, oh, holy crap, it's a big thing in there. So like, you know, if the architecture matches the story in that way, it can really build up your sense of anticipation. It can build up the sense of drama just by doing things. Let's say like having big doors, for example. because then you expect something to happen, something big to happen, because it's a big door. Like you see this in a lot of games, like you know, like you have like a normal level and then oh the boss fight. You see like a big entry and then a big door. Okay, this is where the boss is, and you go in and there's a big boss fight. And so the door itself and the architecture itself like builds up the anticipation of you expecting something big inside them. And you know, given how cool these robots are, even though they're not in the game, or you don't actually have gameplay with them, like it'll be much cooler if the doors were bigger. And like again, it sounds like a small thing, right? It sounds like, oh, are you serious? You're talking about a door? How big the door is? No, but it does make a difference. It does make a difference. Like if you're making a video game, you want the player to feel that anticipation of something. You know what I mean? Anyway, I think that's the entirety of Shed 2. Let me just check. Oh, this is the other side of the pipe. The pipe, by the way, if you can turn off the electricity and sneak through the pipe. I think that's the only reason it exists. Because, I mean, there's a fan there. It's supposedly ventilation, I think, but there's no need for it. I think that's just for gameplay.
Perimeter detail reports north side, all clear.
Okay, so that's the second shed. Let's keep moving. Here we have an elevator, although can we not access the elevator? Oh, here it is. There's an elevator. There's also stairs over there. Let me take the elevator. Right, a big cargo elevator makes sense. There's a lot of equipment down there, and so you need to move heavy items. Except the doors are small, right? Yeah. You have a big elevator but a small door. So how do you get things on the elevator? How do you get... You can only get something this big into the elevator, but the elevator is this big. The doors don't match the... Shouldn't that be like a big door, so you can move a big thing in here to use the big elevator? You see what I'm saying? Anyway. And then there's this. This can't be moved. And so you can't actually move a big piece of cargo. You can't make like move a big box in here, because this is in the way. And then through here, we have a bit of an airlock, but I don't know why this is here. This might be quarantine? This might be quarantine. Where you like scrub down. Is it hazardous materials back there? They might be dealing with hazardous materials and you kind of have to scrub down. And then through here, there's a lot of storage, but I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a storage space. They might have just put a lot of stuff in here. Like there's some workstations, but it's not clearly an office. There's just stuff stored, but it's not clearly storage, so I'm not sure what this is. We are heading towards the main entrance. Well, I don't know if it's a main entrance, but one of the main entrances. This is definitely storage, I think. And then here, again, not sure what these rooms are. What happened here, you can see dead people. They had a party. And these guys were betrayed at the party, and now they're dead. They were poisoned with the wine. So that's the story. As to what the space is, I'm not sure. I think it's just storage. They just threw them a party in one of the storage rooms. Right, and then finally here we have a security office, I guess. So this security office looks at the entrance. That makes sense. You keep an eye on people coming in. And then we go out here. Another elevator. So the elevators are odd because you would think that you would just have one elevator going straight down instead of having elevator this bit and then another little bit of elevator and then another bit. That's inefficient. So they did this because of gameplay and story reasons, right? Because they want you to move through one space to another space. Like there's enemies, you get through, get to the elevator, there's more enemies, and you go through another elevator, more enemies. So for gameplay reasons, you want to divide the space into pieces. But, you know, architecturally speaking, why would you design your circulation like this? It makes no sense. You would just take this elevator all the way down, just have one elevator, instead of like two small elevators. Right? We take the elevator up.
Reports east side all clear.
And then through another little transition space, more codes, right? And then we're outside! Whoa! And that's the end of the level. So in the game, you would get onto the plane and fly out of here. But finally, we get to see the outside. And this is a little strange. This is a little strange. Because the exterior of GARM doesn't look anything like the interior. The interior is just a big rectangular box. The exterior is all these fancy triangle shapes, and those triangle shapes, and spheres. We didn't see any triangles or spheres or any shapes like this inside. Very strange. It seems like the outside and the inside were done by completely different people, and they didn't talk to each other. The outside of the facility looks nothing like the inside. I'm not sure why. And also, there's a lot of water pouring out of GARM. If your building sits on a glacier and your glacier is melting that fast, you need to be worried about how stable your building is. Because it's not stable, right? Building on a waterfall, it looks very cool and it looks very dramatic, but it's actually a terrible idea. Because the waterfall is being eroded away all the time. And your foundation is not stable if you build on top of moving water like this. So there's a famous building called Falling Water by Frank Lloyd Wright in the United States. It's built like on top of the a waterfall, smaller than this, less dramatic than this. But that building the maintenance is horrible because as I said, the foundations is moving, and so the building is just kind of slowly falling apart, and like you have the balconies are kind of like breaking off, and then there's like big cracks in the building because the foundation is being washed away by the waterfall. So it's very cool until it's not. It's very cool until the whole building falls down, and then it's not cool. That's the problem with building on top of waterfalls. And so looking at this, it looks amazing. It's so cool, so dramatic, but extremely bad idea. Don't do that. Where's the water coming from? We don't know. What I'm thinking is, it's possible that GARM is not a research facility. It's possible that GARM is deliberately melting the glaciers. Because you saw what they're doing in there, right? They're drilling giant pieces of ice out and just removing giant blocks of ice. I think they're deliberately destroying the glacier. Why they would do that, you don't know. We don't know. But it's the kind of thing they would do in a Deus Ex game, is ridiculous things like deliberately destroy the environment. Yeah, it's possible, I'm not sure, but I think that's what this implies. Alright, and that is our walkthrough of the GARM facility. Not very long, not very complicated. If you think about it, there's just two big rectangular boxes. Two big rectangular steel sheds. not much artistic merit, right? It's just big rectangular boxes. But it does make a lot of sense if you're thinking about an industrial facility, an efficient, practical industrial facility, then certainly you would find just a big rectangular shed. Happens in industrial architecture all the time. Big concrete boxes, big steel boxes, happens all the time. So not surprising and not unusual, it's just the architecture is not that interesting, it's just a box. Inside the shed, we had ice drilling operations at one point. And then afterwards, a paramilitary organization has taken over and set up their base inside the ice drilling operation. And if you remember, we saw all the pieces of the military facility. Like we saw like the mess hall, we saw break rooms, we saw armories, we saw exercise areas, we saw dormitories, we saw like machine shops, we saw like parking space for the military vehicles. So we had all the pieces of a military base, but kind of in a token way. Like none of it is big enough for the size of the facility, and they didn't really use the space efficiently. So like the pieces are there, but it's like it's not very convincing. So I don't know. I feel like I would have liked for it to be more convincing as a military base. But you know, all the pieces are there. It's not like they left anything out. They just didn't fit them together as thoroughly as I would have liked them to, right? So, and also there are clues in the story that they never intend to stay very long anyway. So it could have been just a temporary base. It's not like a permanent base, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, next up we have the Apex Center located in the center of London. The Apex Center is a convention hall, the convention building. See you in the next one.